of Bébé Foodie, which is a guide to help parents to get started on solid food for their babies and providing them with personalized guidance and stress-free option to really make their life easier as parents. So I wanted to really focus on that presentation. If you go on the next slide, Juliana, the first 1,000 days. One second. So yeah, next slide. The first 1,000 days, which is a very important concept when it comes to nutrition. So during pregnancy and throughout the second birthday, really this is gonna play a foundational role. Nutrition is gonna play a foundational role in the learning and growing process of your child. Really see nutrition as the fuel to grow. So more and more studies in the neuroscience platform are actually telling you that the brain is the fastest organism to grow. So being able to nourish the brain correctly will really provide the correct development, and giving those right nutrients is so important. So if we go on to the next slide, we're actually going to see the three different important steps that make up those 1,000 days. So again, from conception all the way to toddlerhood, 2-year-old. So you have pregnancy, where most of you, I'm sure, are in right now, which is going to be key to have a great nourishment. Infancy, when your infants start solid food, and even before, when they're being breastfed or given formula, and then toddlerhood. So those really two steps are crucial, and really the developing brain is going to be more vulnerable to a poor nutrition. So it's going to be either through the absence of key nutrients, or it's going to be by stress experienced by the young child. So even during pregnancy, having like a bad relationship with food or anything that is going to be triggering might enhance that lack of nutrients and a poor nutrition. So you want to make sure that you create a healthy relationship with food from pregnancy all that way, which is really going to stage and pass away for your relationship with food for your baby. So if we go on the next slide, we're going to actually start off with what's happening during pregnancy specifically. So again, the human brains develop at an astonishing rate. So actually, very early in the pregnancy, when you're only 16 days after conception, there's already neural tone that forms, and by 7 months of pregnancy, then the child's brain is really going to take the form of an adult, which is very impressive when you think about it. At the 4th week of pregnancy, the brain is composed of 10,000 cells, and by the time you reach 24 weeks, then there's 10 billion. So I can let you make the calculation. It's pretty amazing. Several nutrients are going to play an important role for that development, right? So you're going to have iron, protein, copper, folate. I'm sure you're familiar with some of those names, which are most likely part of your prenatal, which your OBGYN probably told you to take as well. So that's great that you're getting those key nutrients through this prenatal, but there's a lot you can do during pregnancy to nourish yourself and your baby through whole food. So not only will that help the development of their brain, but it will also develop their taste for the future, which is a great thing to know. So now let's move on to the next slide, the foundation of nutrition. So first, I want to kind of like mention that nutrition for optimal health is really not a one-size-fits-all. Everyone's different. So a true wellness isn't found in a generic diet, and I often require or advise my client to identify what's unique for them, what's personalized for them in a healthy diet to really best meet their needs. So again, different food can affect differently different people. So just keep that in mind as I walk you through the foundations of nutrition. But ultimately, my goal is to provide you with just that mindfulness of knowing what's going to enrich you and what's going, like just knowing what kind of food is beneficial for you and your growing baby. So these foods are actually all great examples. So we're going to start with fruits and veggies, dark leafy greens, are something very much necessary to consume at least once a day. So I'm talking here lettuce, spinach, arugula, kale are all great example. Non-starch vegetables, so it can really be anything from asparagus, tomato, avocado, green beans, eggplant. All of those vegetables are great and have like a tons of vitamins. Fermented food like kimchi, or preserved lemon or sauerkraut are all great food to get to kind of strengthen your immune system. And then, of course, fruits. So any type of fruits, apple, pear, berry, peaches. You might want to consider be careful and reduce your consumption of tropical fruits or dry fruits, which are often known to be higher in sugar. But anything else is to be consumed without limitation during pregnancy. So when it comes to carbs, healthy carbs would be anywhere from root vegetables. So in that you have butternut squash, for example, pumpkins, carrots, beets, zucchini. All of that are great source of carbs. Pseudograins such as quinoa are really good. Legumes, whole grain, beans, lentils are all great healthy source of carbs. You might want to reduce your consumption of any white flour carbs, so like white pasta, white rice. Those are to be consumed with more moderation. When it comes to proteins, so of course I'm talking here meat and poultry, fish, eggs, organ meats. Those are all great source of iron that you want to consume during pregnancy and beyond. Of course, I often like to recommend my clients to prioritize, if possible, pasteurized poultry or eggs. But if you do not have the accessibility or just like monetary reason or just accessibility to those type of food, at least try to prioritize organic. And then when it comes to if you're on a plant-based diet, of course, protein is accessible in a lot of nutrients of food. So of course, you could do anything from legumes or green veggies, nuts and seeds. The only thing to note, though, is to make sure that you vary a lot, because the amount of nutrients that are provided by plant-based proteins is not as much as you would find in meat or poultry or fish. So you might want to vary a lot to make sure that you get all of those nutrients. Then when it comes to fats, healthy fats will be found in butter, olive oil, avocado oil, any coconut oil, actually. You can use those, no issue. Having healthy fats in any food, you and baby included, is so important to get that omega-3 for yourself. It's so great for development of the brain. However, you might want to steer away as much as possible from seed oil, just because the seeds are so small. The extraction process is very processed. It requires to heat the oil very much. So this often creates like a highly processed, not that as nutritive fat, which is often used when you eat outside. So when you're cooking at home, just make sure you use those great fats. And then extra would be anything from natural sweeteners. So obviously stevia, maple syrup, honey are all much better than if you were to use processed sugar. And then seasoning, so herbs, mustard is all good seasoning. You might want to try and limit anything that's high in sugar or salt, like ketchup or soy sauce. And then you have, of course, dairies. Great dairies example would be whole milk yogurt or goat milk yogurt, which are great fermented food, which is good for immune system again. Cheese, make sure just you be careful of the intake of salt, of course. And then after that, beverages, water, fresh juice press, tea, caffeine-free in the case of your pregnant, are all much better than anything that's processed or high in sugar. So moving on to the next slide. So you were pregnant, now you had your baby, right? During infancy, there's a whole new world that happens. But it's not actually. It's the moment where the brain develops even more during infancy, because that's when you're going to start noticing motor skills. Your baby is going to acquire functions such as balance, coordination, posture, all of that. And a healthy nutrition is going to enhance this. And they're also going to help them create and retrieve memories, because that's something that they acquire with time. So you're going to really look into this. It starts with breastfeeding. We often talk about breastfeeding as a superfood. Baby's going to taste everything through your milk, and get everything they need from the mother, which is why it's important that you continue feeding yourself correctly to provide those nutrients for your baby. But just know that if you do baby's formula are formulated to provide all those nutrients, so don't worry. They're still going to get all the necessary nutrients from that. And whatever you're doing, breastfeeding or giving formula, know that your baby's watching you. So if they watch you eating food that you want them to like in the future, is actually going to be a better way of kind of like introducing them gently. And then it continues with the introduction of solid food. So what's happening during this introduction, right? So your baby is 4 to 6 months old. You're getting started with a whole new world. So it's crucial to remember that every baby is different, right? So the first introduction don't always equate to success. Most of the baby's nutrition, and I really want you to be aware of that, it still remains coming from breast milk or formula. So the introduction of solid foods, while necessary to enhance their curiosity, is at that age not what they get the most of their nutrients. So you really want to use that window of opportunity to trigger their interest in different taste and texture. So some babies will adjust quicker than other. Everything is normal, and make sure you follow the signs of readiness and make sure that your baby is ready. If you tune into my live after that, we can go through the different signs of readiness together. So moving on, there are some guidelines you want to keep in mind. So your baby's ready to jump in, right? They're ready. They met all the signs. Your pediatrician said, let's go, let's do it. So some guidelines you might want to follow would include the ideal time of the day. So babies are accustomed to their bottle or breast, and they may just find the introduction of solid a little bit overwhelming, right? So therefore, it's essential to ensure that your baby's mood is happy and relaxed when you feed solids at that moment. So the time of the day is really up to you, but it's going to have a big impact in that. So the optimal time will be a few hours after the last feed. Remember, breast milk or formula is what is giving them comfort. So that's what they're going to prioritize. But you also don't want to be the feeding too close from the last feed, just because you want to make sure they have extra room in their tiny tummies. So I would usually say 2 hours after the last feed is a good time. Morning would be great. You would tell me just after they wake up, they're in a good, they haven't had their bottle for a while and they're in a good mood. But yes, that's a problem. The bottle was too long ago. So you want to make sure that they got their bottles. Then maybe if they're going to another nap, you can do the nap. And then maybe just after that, usually I like to recommend lunchtime around like 11 a.m. You know your baby's schedule best, but just make sure that they are awake and they had a bottle, but not too long ago and not too long also before the next one. So kind of like an in-between. Another guideline that I like to give is start slowly because transitioning should happen gradually with small spoonfuls. So if you begin by introducing one solid food a day is great because your baby is actually going to acquire that taste, really get to know that food and get accustomed to it. If you tuned in my live seminar this morning, I was also talking about constipation. So having like too many things at once might provoke some of that. So you want to make sure that you start slowly, only a few spoons. If you're doing finger food, then only just a few bites. Your baby really don't need more. And as they progress, their appetite will progress too, and you will see them asking for more, getting more, reaching for more. And by the time they get to 12 months old of age, they're going to be eating about 4 meals a day. So don't force them. This needs to be enjoyable for everyone, baby and parents. So don't force the baby if they don't want to eat. That's totally fine. Again, they get all their nutrients from breast milk and formula. When it comes to introducing the right texture and variety, so welcoming solid food into a baby diet must be approached with caution, right? Because you have safety hazards. So you want to make sure that if you do puree, it's a smooth puree that they can easily get into their mouth. If you're doing baby-led weaning, then it has to be soft, finger-shaped food that they can easily grab and mash into their mouth, and between their palate and their tongue. As your baby develop, you will see in the coming months that they will be able to handle much more stages of texture. So it's going to be roughly mashed, minced food, and eventually chopped food. So that's a great things to see and evolve. Very briefly as well on the next slide, the difference between spoon feeding and baby-led weaning. If we go on the next slide, you actually have those two different approaches. That are, spoon feeding or parent-led weaning is like known as a traditional approach, and then you have baby-led weaning. As a certified nutrition consultant, I, tried both. I've done a lot of research, and I really wanted to kind of know, is there really an advantage to do one method over the other, right? I also was able to test on my son when I was doing this research. He was just, starting solids, so I was able to do both. And to be honest, a combination of both is what I think is the best. What I found out is baby's journey is different. Sometimes you have expectation, but really your baby choose. Your family, you just choose the method that's right for you. My only advice for you on this is really do what's right for you, do what's right for your baby. Don't feel the pressure of doing one method over the other. Studies are showing that really what's going to really shape your baby behavior around food is going to be any stress related around family environment, mealtime. So it doesn't really matter if they're spoon-fed or if they're doing finger food. If a mealtime is stressful, then they might create a bad relationship with food. So just install a very nice, joyful, peaceful moments at the table, and then they will be really doing any food. So next slide, I'm talking about the first food to offer. So there really are no rhyme or reason about which first food is best over another. Grains is often what your baby's doctor is going to recommend to get started. But there's really no scientific evidence for you to do that. You can find store-bought first baby foods, which are primarily iron fortified, rice cereals or oat cereals. My only advice for you is just make sure to check labels, because sometimes the level of glucose is very, very high on those products. So I often like to recommend to just buy regular oatmeal, grind it, and then mix it to breast milk or formula, which is a great way to offer grains. But really what I think is the best to get started with, and that's, again, my personal opinion, but feel free to just try different things. Vegetables for me is a great food just because it's easy to cook, and it's just going to be an excellent opportunity for your baby to be introduced to vitamin-rich food. Vegetables, purees are easy to make, or even just finger food if you do baby-led weaning. And it's going to help also kickstart their interest in savory food. Remember that the milk is sweet, so they're going to like it, whatever happens. Same thing for cereals. So kicking off with vegetables when they're so willing to try everything, is a great way of introducing that and setting the pace for the future for their taste. And then, of course, fruits are delicious and they're packed with nutrients, essential vitamins and minerals. So go for it. And when it comes to proteins, so again, no specific studies about starting with proteins. You can definitely introduce meat or plant-based proteins as soon as your baby turns 6 months old. Only thing is you want to make sure digestion, because legumes, for example, are a bit harder to digest. So you might want to wait a little bit. And then when it comes to animal proteins, it's just a question of texture as well and digestion. But what I like to recommend is kick off the first one with vegetable and fruits, and then slowly add proteins into your baby's diet. If we go to the next slide, when it comes to allergen food, so many parents will really steer away from introducing allergens because there's a fear around allergens. But recent studies have really shown that introducing allergens early is actually going to prevent the development of allergies later in life. So I know that's a topic that was covered a lot by Spoonful One, and what you've learned there is that by starting early, around 4 to 6 months of age, will actually really help to prevent those allergies to develop in the future. So make sure your baby is exposed often and early. The biggest culprits for allergies, just so you know, are peanut, fish, shellfish, and dairy. So make sure that they're exposed to those early and often. So after that, right, so your infant is now a toddler. He's been introduced to everything. The adventure continues. So, the rule stays the same in terms of giving a lot of food, but just in terms of brain development, that is still a very major, important time in early childhood, right? But just know that the biggest difference with infancy is that now your baby is actually relying on the nutrient coming from whole food, and breast milk or formula becomes secondary. So this is very important. So make sure you don't go above a certain amount of milk a day, so 16 ounces as a rule of thumb, because you don't want to replace the necessary nutrients coming from whole food with milk. But of course, it's your personal choice and your baby's choice as comfort of mind to continue giving breast milk or formula. Just be mindful of that to ensure they get the nutrients they need. And then just briefly to conclude everything, because I don't think I have much time left, but for any question, you'll join me on my booth. So I'm Lucy, I'm a certified consultant in nutrition. I created Bébé Foodie because I wanted to help parents navigate the parenting world, right? And when it comes to nutrition, parenting is hard on every level. And when it comes to nutrition, you can find so many contradictory information. There's always new constraints added, work hours, availability of options. And I wanted to give that service. So that's why I created. So in the next page, you actually have my contact information. Feel free to take a screenshot. If you go on the next slide, feel free to take a screenshot. So here's my email address, my website. There's my Instagram as well. And if you want to book a consultation, go on the next slide. I can help you getting started with solid food. So everything we just walked through. But also if you notice any food sensitivities or eczema for your baby, I can walk you through a protocol to help you kind of relieve that pain from your baby and help you reintroduce that food for the future. And then ongoing support if you notice anything going on. If, for example, your baby is just not interested in food, I can help you with that. And then finally, exclusive to Prego Expo attendees, you can download for free a tool that I made available on my website. So this address is actually available on my booth, and you have the code underneath. Anyone that received a VIP bag and they subscribe as VIP got 20% off extra on the consultation. So reach out and make sure to connect to the raffle tomorrow, where you get a chance to win one of the 5 free consultations that I'm giving away. So just to conclude, last slide. Thank you so much for listening. I hope that you're going to have a wonderful adventure when it comes to introducing solid food for you babies. That I'm sure it's going to be amazing. Remember, it's a fun experience. It's all about having fun. So just enjoy it, make it an adventure for the whole family. And again, join me in my booth. I'll be more than happy to walk you through different things. We can just relook in more details. If you have any question, I'm happy to answer. Thank you for all your nice comments. I've been looking a bit on the side, but trying to give all the information at the same time. So that was kind of the experience. But thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. Oh, I see that Spoonful One was watching. I hope you liked the little comments. But yeah, thank you, and enjoy the show and every other brands. And let's be in contact very soon. Thank you.